All right, we got a Rheem gas furnace here, and I came out here yesterday and determined that the fan switch part of the board, it's one of these little relays here, was not connecting the fan, and they had no air. So you've probably seen what I do, a lot of you before, and I'll pull it off right now. As you see that, here's the black wire from the blower motor. Okay, and that normally goes right there where you see cool. Okay, I'll just stick it back here for now. It normally goes right there. So what I did was I took this L1 terminal, and you can see that little doubler, whatever you want to call that, little fitting, little double stake-on I stuck on there to allow me to plug that back in and plug the black to full-time power. Now that left them with a full-time fan, but it was just one day and one night, and at least that way they had air. The thermostat obviously regulated as normal, but the fan ran full-time, the blower did. So today we're going to replace this board. This is the exact board from Ferguson that sells Rheem. And up here, that's who sells Rheem, is Ferguson and McCall. So we just go to who's ever closest. How much was this board? I don't know if they show the prices on these or not. A lot of companies don't want the price. Yep. Basically a $90 board. So not so bad for the Rheem. So I'm gonna change this board out, and I'm gonna try to do it in real time here and see if we can maybe do a little quick how-to for some of the newer techs that can go back and watch it if they want to, if they run into one, or just whoever it helps, and I'm going to enjoy doing it. So let's get started. All right. So the first thing I usually do is go ahead and unhook my thermostat wires. And sometimes people have different ways of hooking them up, and you may want to pay attention to make sure, you know, what color they used on common, what color they did on this or that. But thermostat wires are pretty much elementary, so we're not going to make a big deal of those. So they're unhooked. Now, the more stuff, when you're going back in, one thing to remember to keep from being intimidated, and that was our line wire. That was our voltage wire right there. And we'll know that because it's got that little thing I added. And also it goes back, and you can kind of follow it back and see. But when you're going back in, with each thing you hook up, it gets easier and easier. Now, these plugs here will only go on one way, and they'll only go in one place. So that's very easy. So if you get intimidated by the look of the whole big bowl of spaghetti, just start unhooking the things first that will only go one way, and that there's no way you could forget. I mean, this orange wire to this igniter here, it's going to be pretty hard to forget that. Look where it's at. Okay, and you know your blower wires, you can see where they come from. That's pretty easy as well. So And a tip I used to use back in the day, you know, before I got familiar with so many furnaces, is I would take pictures. Now back then all I had was this little flip phone that didn't really take very good pictures, but I would take a few. And of course I've seen people that write stuff down, you know, and label things. I probably never really got quite that far with it, but I can't say never. I just don't often label anything. And generally all these white wires are going to be neutrals, and they will usually not matter in the neutral bank where they go, but I've just got a habit of putting them all back where they were. It's just something I do. And these, for whatever reason, are really tight, and I'm not real comfortable when I'm pulling those off like that, but it came off pretty good. Now the board is completely unhooked right now, so that was easy enough. Now for the standoffs or the stay-cons, or you know, whatever you want to call those, and if you work hard enough, you can find a way to get your wires to all stay out of your way. You just got to kind of try a couple of different configurations. But as you can see now, everything is clean and clear and out of the way. Now there's a couple of ways to do this, but what I do is try to give myself both options. Oops. Number one option, don't bump into the camera. Okay, so what I mean by both options is I try to squeeze the old standoffs and get the board loose without jerking the whole thing. I'll show you when I get it off here, but most of you know what I mean. Without jerking the whole mounting tabs or standoffs, whatever you want to call them. And it looks like I left the low voltage from the transformer. Looks like I left them on the board. They were so tucked up and hidden there that I just didn't see them. Now the old board will have a fuse in it, probably still good. I usually lay that in there as a spare, and I usually try to look on the back and see if I can see any burn marks or anything where these relays are, and I don't. I don't see any reason why the relay wasn't working, but it definitely wasn't working. We definitely were not getting fan. So there's the old board out of the way. Now the new board will come with these standoffs in it, already in it, but you know, rather than have to reach in the back or have to snap and break these off, sometimes I'll take the option just to go the easy way and slide these out of the new board, which is really easy. I mean, all you do is squeeze them. And there's a lot of ways to do this. A lot of guys will say, you know, you should have just pulled, you know, these out. You should have just done this. You should have done that. And that's all fine. You know, everybody can do things the way they want to do it. I look for quick, easy, and the lowest risk of anything happening, you know, on most stuff I do. Now, I don't think this right here is a risky thing no matter what, but you see how easy those all came out and how easy it all pops back in, and it's done. And these, it's good to keep these in your truck as spares anyway. And it's harder to pop them off in the back because you can't see the back of this plate. So I just work them from the front in most cases. Now obviously, you don't do things exactly the same every single time. And you just start by hooking up the things that you know where they go. So, you know, all these neutrals really don't matter, but I always put them back where they were. Now, the black should always be the cool speed, or at least that's my opinion. Now, these are here to be able to select and change if that's what you want to do. But, you know, that's just kind of an industry standard. The next speed down will be yellow. And I'll put that on heat if it's a 4-speed motor. But honestly, if I remember right, this yellow was up here on this tab, which is labeled as fan. And what that means right there, the fan one, is full-time fan, like if you turn the green call on. Like if you flip the switch from auto to on, you'll get fan only, is what that means. Or some boards will say circulating, some boards will say, you know, different things. But you got heat, cool, fan, and there should be a park somewhere, but I don't see one on this board. So I don't know if it's the 4th speed. Yeah, I don't see a park. Sure don't. So I may have to escape back in the video or either look on the schematic and see where that was. Now, red is a low speed, and commonly a lot of people put that on heat. And you can, but red is the lowest speed on the motor. You can always remember that. All right, so we've got our low voltage transformer wires reconnected. These two really can't be reversed, but I went ahead and put them back like they had them. As we can see on the old board, common had the yellow on it, and the red was on SEC, sec, I guess that means secondary. So we have these two, I guess some people call them Molex plugs or whatever they are. They will only go on one way, so we know they're going to be correct. We're going to plug those back in. Okay, and now we have our board installed. Now before we leave it, we'll go get another zip tie like they had it and tighten that back up just to clean it up a little bit. But one thing I always do before I put my thermostat wires on, and people don't have to do this, this is just a little something that I do, is I put a jumper from red to green first, power it up with no thermostat wires on it, just kind of test the functions. Okay, and that's a lower speed. You can tell that's not high, that's not the black, so that is that continuous fan wire. Okay, then when I pull the jumper off, obviously it quits. So I'm going to let go of the door switch again, and I'm going to go from red to W, which is heat. Normally I use the little alligator clip jumper, but I forgot to bring it under here with me. And I'm going to power it up and just make sure the induced draft starts. And it did, I can hear it. So I'm gonna let this thing fire just for a second. I'm not gonna let it get hot, and I'm not gonna let it go all the way to fan. But I am gonna let it fire up. Yep, and I hear the sparker, and there goes the burner. So I'm gonna let off and not let it get hot. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and hook my thermostat wires back up. And if you remember, the indoor did have a common going to the thermostat, and it was blue. So we're going to put both blue wires, the one from the inside and one from the outside, onto the common. I'm going to put those on first. I'm going to tighten them down. All right. Then we're just going to start going up the ladder here, up the line. Next one is red, and it only gets one wire, and that goes inside. Okay. The next one going up is yellow, and the yellow, the Y, actually has two. It has one from inside to the thermostat and one from outside that goes to the outdoor unit. And I always give them a little tug after I tighten it just to make sure the wire won't slip out. All right, then the next one is the G for green. That's from your indoor only. That's just that fan only call from the thermostat. And then your last one up top is W for heat, and that is also indoor only on a gas furnace and straight air conditioner. All right, so now all the thermostat wires are correct. So I'm going to leave that spare fuse laying there, just for me or the next guy, whoever it is. And hopefully the next guy sees that if he needs it. And in actuality, hopefully the next guy is me. So we like to try to keep a customer if we can. All right, so let's go get a couple of zip ties and clean this up, and we'll put the door on and let the customer turn the thermostat off and on a couple of times, or at least one time, just to make sure we get condenser and fan. And we'll leave this. But there you have it, the board replacement. Let's clean this up and make it look better, and we'll leave it. All right, so the thermostat is on. Letter C down there for cool, and I don't know if you noticed, but it did have a letter H for heat when we were jumping out testing the heat. So we added a couple of zip ties here and just cleaned up the wiring just to make it visible and look better. And I'll tell you, a lot of guys might think that doesn't matter, but the next guy that comes in here, you don't want to give him any fuel to pour on the fire while you're not there next. And you know, these days, You know, techs love to say, well, the last guy did a sloppy job and I straightened it out, and you know, I do that myself. I'll say it on video more so than I'll say it to a customer. It's just not necessary. If you spend your professional life focused on others, you'll never make yourself look good that way. You should always focus on yourself and what you offer and what you can do, and service with a smile, do the best you can do for people. And you know, if the subject comes up from them and they ask questions, obviously you have to be honest and answer things, but I'm more likely to show images or pictures or video of something that should concern a customer more so than, you know, hearsay. Because we hear it an awful lot from the customer. You know, that so-and-so said it was really bad, and then they did this, and you know, they were sloppy, they did the wrong thing, blah, blah. And you get tangled up in that. No matter if you're the good guy or not, you're still in it. So you just try to stay out of it. Just try to do a clean, hassle-free job for the customer. So little things like this, the next guy that comes in, you know, he sees clean work, and he may even say it's not been worked on. Or you never know what he'll say. But at least it's an effort to do the best job you can for yourself. And for the customer, of course. So that's a Rheem 90% furnace. I guess we could show the model. So there's the model, just in case that matters. But the board swap was pretty easy. I'd say it took us, you know, 20 minutes or so, something like that. I haven't looked at the video. I did stop it once or twice for a phone call. But easy enough swap. Everybody knows that I'm very brand specific. I am a train guy, through and through. My blood runneth green. But I will give props where it's due, and Rheem has some logical things service-wise about them. No, I'm not a Rheem fan. However, they are easy to service and they are easy to work on. There's a couple of things that are logical about them. This board fits most furnaces. You'll have some 80% furnaces that are a little different, and some two-stage that are different, but they've only got about 3 boards. The outdoor units on heat pumps, whether it's package, split, high-end, low-end, they all take the, well, now some of the real high-end communicating stuff obviously is different, but the standard units all take the same defrost board. So you can keep a defrost board for Rheem in your truck, and 9 times out of 10 it's going to fit the unit you run into. So let's give them a couple of pieces of credit where they're due. They're not as easy to work on as ICP. I don't think anything is as easy to repair as ICP. So I do like that about ICP. But to me, obviously, Trane is the best brand for me to sell, service, or work on. I'm very familiar with them, very used to them, but they're not as simple as sometimes I think they could be. But anyway, this one's... All right, so that's wrapped up. Back working well. Everything's okay. Phone rings. It cuts off the video, so I've got to remember to bring my old phone with me. I used to do that a good bit more, and for some reason I got out of the good habit, and so anyway, that's how we do that. So I really appreciate you watching, and we will see you on the next one.